I'm Ricey, and today I'm going to show you how to build this blueprint, which produces 120 screws per minute. You only need 5 constructors, the ability to make Mark II belts, the ability to have a blueprint maker, and then maybe some tickets for some aesthetics if you want them to look structural. Let's get into it. Now I start all my blueprints for my mega factory that I'm slowly working on with an empty box. Now this box is just 8 1-meter foundations, so 4 on the bottom, 4 on top, separated by a pillar. Now you can put up, I do it by just slapping down a wall, then I'll put the 4 foundations on top, then I'll go back and put in the pillars afterwards. And then I've saved this as a blueprint itself so I don't have to do it every time. There's also a ladder on the corner that gets moved around depending on the blueprint and position. So like I said, this is going to make 120 screws per minute. So we need 5 constructors. That is 2 constructors making rods and 3 constructors making screws. We'll start with the constructors on the bottom. So for this, I will center 2 constructors on this floor, 1 and 2. From here, I need to merge these to go to a different floor. But we'll come to that in a second. We're going to set these to iron rods. We're going to get our conveyor lift floor holes. It's another cosmetic decision to make things stay within this 4x4. You'll hook up your lift to the constructor and then click on the conveyor hole. And then on this bottom floor, this is where we're going to feed. You'll want a splitter because it's only going to take one Mark I smelter to feed both of these. Make sure it's centered. Using the middle mouse button, you can copy anything you would like to place. Click on the splitter, then click on the hole. Those should be locked up now. Click on the splitter, click on the hole, and there we go. Now we have our feed for the iron rods. I'm going to place a power pole in this spot next to each constructor. I'm going to connect those up, and then I will connect them up to each other. From here, I want to go 3 levels higher. So to achieve that, I'm going to place 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to place foundations. And we're actually going to place 6 total foundations up top because we need 3 constructors up there to make this work properly. And so to match that, we'll also put 2 foundations down here so that that footprint is consistent across the whole pod. I'm going to grab my ladder from here to go all the way up there. That way I can have easier access, especially if you don't have a jetpack. I'm going to grab this constructor by middle mouse click. I'm going to run up here. We're going to do the same thing, but this time with 3 constructors instead of 2. Hold down your left control to make sure they line up, and then we're going to take our conveyor holes. Feed it from the constructor to the conveyor hole, constructor to the conveyor hole, and constructor to the conveyor hole. We will come back to that in a second. I will go ahead and set all of these as screws. You want to do this for all of your blueprints. That way when you slap down the blueprints, all you got to do is run your conveyors into them, run your conveyors out of them at the beginning and the end, and then hook up the power to them, and they'll start running. Put those power poles in the same spot we did as the bottom floor for consistency. Then you'll want to connect your power from the first floor to the second floor. I like doing this to where it just doesn't clip. Well, it clips, but you can't see the clip, so I put the pole right there. So that line just goes straight through the floor and up. Now there's a lot of power poles in this. You can adjust to how you see fit on that. Now we need to make sure that the 3 constructors get an equal feed from these 2 constructors downstairs. So one of the things we need to do is we need to grab conveyor lift and make sure they're plugged in. And then from this center one, I'm going to take a belt. Doesn't really matter what belt you have. And this is a lot easier if you have the ceiling mounts. I'm going to slap that right there. We're going to delete this belt in a minute, but this is to help us place the splitter. We're going to select our splitter. We're going to do our best to get it locked right there in the middle. Then I'm going to go back and delete this belt. I'm going to run a belt from here to that one. I'm going to run a belt out to the center of this one. But yes, I could do this, but I like a nice 90-degree angle. So we'll go here, 1, 2 back. It's a little weird to do from this angle. and then get that nice 90-degree angle into the feed there. And we're going to do the same on the back end here. 1 and 2. So from there, now we need to get a merger down here. And this is where things get a little crazy. So we're going to place that merger right smack there in the middle. It might clip just a hair, but it's not a big deal. We're going to run this here. We're going to run this here. Then I need to get another lift. And we're going to run it down underneath this splitter. And then get another lift out of this merger and up a level. And straight into there. Now the bottom properly feeds the top. So these will make 15 minute, merge into 30 a minute, so you can leave the Mark 1 belts because they run 60 a minute. And then it'll go 10 this way, 10 this way, 10 that way. And that is all we need for a 100% screw production for 3 constructors. Each one takes 10 and produces 40. All right, so the final and maybe hardest thing to do, probably not, is getting all 3 of these constructors to feed into the same belt and get down to the lower platform. We're going to achieve this by getting some really close mergers in here. So just make sure they are lined up with the constructor on the way out. And they're going to be barely hugging this wall here. You only need 2 more mergers. We're going to get Mark II conveyor belts. So you can select, if you just have like a Mark 1 on your hotbar, you press E, it'll quickly change it to Mark II if you have Mark II unlocked. Make sure that your constructors are hooked up to your mergers. And then here, we're going to put a conveyor lift floor hole right on the edge. And we're going to click on the floor hole and make sure we turn it to the merger. You can see that little line right there. That means it's connected. So we are connected right there, and this will feed down. And then from here, we'll make sure we need to change that up top to a Mark II. I forgot to do that. And we'll bring it all the way down. Now from here, you can face it this direction. You can face it back. You can face it that direction. You can face it out even this direction if you want. I'm going to face it this direction to keep it in line with the whole build. You can put a little belt out if you want from there, whatever you want to do at that point. I do want to change that input right there to a Mark II. That way we have Mark IIs all the way through on that screws, so we don't have any backup. So from here, we're done. It functions. Now, if you want to make it pretty, if you want to add your own structural elements to it, do it. Now, I would say stay away from walls on the edge. I'm going to delete this ladder here. Anything, I was having locking issues a lot of times when I try to put walls on the side. So that's why I've gone with pillars. Now with my screws that I have set up, I've actually taken out this pillar and this pillar, and I've moved them to right here and then have them stick out a little bit. So right there in the center. You can move the ladder if you want. You can leave the ladder there. And then I'm using the small frame pillars and stacking them on top of there all the way up to make sure that top floor looks supported. I'm doing it here as well and on this back corner. And that just gives that an appearance of support. It's not just a floating structure, and it would go right into your factory wherever you need it, as long as you have a 2x3 spot ready for it. Now the last thing and the most important thing you have to do is save it. So go in here. If you started with something like a blank slate or whatever, make sure to change the name. We're going to change it to screws. We can select the icon. So you can do pretty much any icon you want. There's parts here. There's even screws right there. We're going to do that. We're going to select the icon. You can change the color. Let's make it bright pink so we know which one we just did. We're going to save that blueprint. Now let's go plop this down in the world so you can see that it functions. Now I already have a smelter set up coming off of one of our random iron lines that we have out here in our spaghetti mess. and I just wanted to show this as an example. So this is one smelter set to 100%. We're going to get 30 per minute. That's all we need to split it. We're going to hit our build mode. We're going to select blueprints up here at the top. As you can see, I got a lot. That pink one that we just built is right there. And there it is. Look at that. Let's set it down. It doesn't really matter how it pops down into the world right now. We're going to do that. And like I said, all we have to do is put the input in and put the power to one of these lines right here. And everything should start functioning immediately. So you can see all the constructors are starting to function, and here in a minute we should see screws running down the belt and out, ready to be shipped off to its next production line. So that's a quick short tutorial on how to build a blueprint for 120 screws per minute. And a side note, if you're not happy where you placed a blueprint, what's really cool about blueprints is when you're in destruction mode, you press R, you can change it to dismantle mode blueprint, and it will literally remove everything in that blueprint, and you don't have to worry about having to do the mass delete and accidentally delete something from another line. Let me know down in the comments how you would have done this better.